I would call the November 12th meeting to order. Good introductions.
Tony Dumas.
Mark.
Mishka Haddock.
Jeff Wheeler.
Susan Levinson, sorry.
Susan Levinson.
Dawn Fernald.
Jen Byron.
So you can get a copy of the handouts.
All I got was a binder.
Fireman.
Mr.
Introduce yourself.
Carrie Lee.
You. We heard from a few candidates last week for the vacant position, and there was one more candidate, Ed McGuire, that was interested in the position. If you mind just saying a few words as far as the your interest and a little about yourself.
My name's Heidi. I live here in Nottingham. I've been here over 5 years. I am interested in learning more about the budget in the town and getting interested in participating. I have done taxes and bookkeeping and financial statements for over 15 years, so I feel I kind of know what I'm looking at. I also I highly participate in the Cub Scouts here in town. Treasurer, I run the popcorn fundraiser this year, and I also do treasurer and board of director for the Nottingham Community Child Care also here in town. Not sure what else to tell you.
Any questions?
Good.
Everybody?
Don't have any questions.
Thank you. All right, let's go vote for the new member, the new candidate. You want to do this by raising hands? Probably easier.
Is someone gonna make a motion?
Need a motion?
How do you wanna do it?
It's not secret ballot now.
No, we'll just do it. Public survey knows everybody voted for, so I think it's part of public record. I think it's good.
So we will need a motion.
We'll need a motion.
For a recommendation of one member, a second, and then a discussion, and a vote, and then if necessary, an additional motion.
Exactly.
Whatever you need.
Okay.
I move to nominate Heidi McGuire for the position of Budget Committee member.
Okay. Any discussion?
Who was the second on that?
Discussion?
I mean, we have three good candidates again. I think my motion would have been for Suzanne, because I don't know Heidi that well, and I know Suzanne has a lot of accounting and finance experience.
Okay.
Again, I think any of the candidates would be reasonable. This has always been a really good committee. You can come here and learn. When I first came here, it was a really welcoming committee, and everyone spent a lot of time helping and teaching the new members, which was great. It's a great stepping board to other places, other committees in town, and you could always come here and expect to be treated with respect, and it would be something that would be nice if that could be maintained.
Yes.
We need I guess, point of order. Do we need a motion for each candidate, or can we make a motion for, I guess, how do we, I'm not quite sure how we do
We
it.
can make a motion for each. We can make a motion for each of them and have discussion for each, and then do a vote at the end, a tally at the end. Or the other option is to do it by paper ballot and just write down who you want as the candidate, the new member, and then Dawn can tie them up at the end.
Okay.
So for time's sake, it would be easier just to do that by paper.
Point of order.
Sure.
You have a motion on the floor that has to be voted on before you can make another motion.
Very true.
Or removed.
Or withdrawn.
However you want to do it.
Well, I think that in fairness to give everybody an even chance, I would rescind the motion so that all three candidates are able to be voted on simultaneously.
Well, let's put them.
Seems easy.
So while you're all voting, I will put a good word in for Arthur Stakis. When you wrote the email to everybody, well, you said that we needed on this board with balance. I think Arthur is the one that brings balance, because he, amongst everybody here, has more municipal experience. He's been a public works director. who's managed a $7 million budget as a public works director. And from a town perspective, it would be very good to have his perspective on this board. Okay, we have a lot of town-related things coming up, especially when we start talking about CIP, and we start talking about some of the road things that have to go on. I think that having Arthur's insight and expertise would be outstanding.
Okay. We'll just pass it down. Actually, plug them. Thank you. Now, they'll have to be sworn in, so they'll have to meet up for this next meeting, is that correct? As far as, next meeting.
Two votes for Heidi, 2 votes for Arthur, and 1, 2, 3, 4 votes for Suzanne. Thank you.
Welcome.
So, the new member has to be sworn in, and where should she be instructed?
Right at the town office, it can be sworn in, when the hours of operation, when they're open. Anytime you want before next Thursday. Okay. Now, before we start, and move into the, minutes for last week, I should make a little comment, just gonna review for the new member and also for the committee, that our main objective here is to prepare the budget for the town by reviewing the needs, the expenses, and the revenues for each of the departments. We're not here to further any personal needs or agendas. We're not here to argue. And we'll always be respectful with each other, and each other's point of view. You know, personal attacks are not going to be tolerated, and I respect everybody's viewpoint on this board going forward, okay? So with that, let's approve the minutes for 11/5/2015. Any motion to accept?
Motion to accept the minutes from last meeting.
Second. Any changes, edits, additions, corrections?
Can you clarify what an excused versus an unexcused absence? How does one get excused versus unexcused?
Excused is if you had notified
Notified
myself
Dawn.
or Dawn in advance, which you did,
Which I
so.
did, so
right.
I'd like to amend that.
So when you amend,
I did not receive notice that you weren't going to be
The
here.
she
chair
emailed you
did.
before the meeting, yeah,
You did, oh.
yes.
One little thing on, lines 48 to 150, we will be providing CIP, just the worksheets, that I assume would be in the annual report.
What line again, please?
It's, lines 148 through 150. There's a statement there that we will not include any information in the town annual report. So we're gonna be basically doing our own report, providing it along with the town report, and we will be submitting CIP worksheet information to the town.
So both sections will be in the annual report, just that you're doing your part, and the town will do their
Yeah,
part.
all we're really doing is working on our worksheets like
Right.
we always have. There's really a lot of, much ado about not much.
I got you.
But
So, for me, the section was 148 to 150.
it says, and will not include their information in the town annual report. We will be providing CIP information for the town annual report.
Except for the CIP.
Well, no, the CIP,
We're gonna put
the CIP report from the school is gonna be included into the CIP report from the town.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
So this for me had nothing to do with CIP, it was just the regular annual town report with information. So are you
Right.
okay with doing a comma except for the school CIP information?
I would just prefer it say that we will provide CIP information for the town report.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other changes? None for me. You vote to accept the minutes as amended? All in favor? Any abstains? Perfect. All right. First draft of the school budgets.
Can I set it up a little?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so you have Dr. Godomsky here this evening, Mr. Rooning, who is the assistant superintendent. Obviously, you know Dr. Godomsky is the superintendent. We have Mr. Souza here, he's the school principal, and we have Mrs. Whitmore here, and she's the SAU business administrator. And we also have Lorraine Furland, and as you all know, we have she and I are sharing the role of budget committee, so she's gonna be with the team this evening, and I'll be here. This is a very first draft. It's been before the school board twice. There are still items under development. There are some contractual items that are being costed out under development that we will see at our next meeting. So your second draft will be different from this one. So I just wanted to let you know that, much the same as the town. It's just this kind of first blush, and we've got a lot of information here, and with no further ado, I shall hand it over.
Great, thank you. First of all, the budget that the binder that we handed out tonight, there are a number of things that are still in development that as soon as we get them finished, we'll bring down copies so you can just insert them in your binder. Obviously, like the default budget, the warrant articles, the SAU budget, all of those haven't been finalized yet, so as soon as they are, we'll bring down copies for you. Looking at the budget, like Sue said, it is in development stage right now. There's a lot of lines, and I'll point those out, that are not final yet. This is just the first blush through the school board, and they'll have obviously another one or two cracks at it before it comes back in detail to you. What I'd like to do, if it's okay, is just go page by page really quickly and get all of the big changes in there and identify some of the new things in the budget. And by all means, if there's any questions or comments along the way, let me know, and I'll be glad to bring that back to the school board.
That'd be great, thank you.
On the first page, really the two things that I'd like Chris to speak to briefly are the regular ed paraprofessionals. You'll see $32,000 up on that, and also the lunchroom recess monitors down the bottom. That's a new position in this budget as well. So if I could ask Chris just to speak to those two items.
Sure, if you look at the budget overview, you can certainly refer to numbers 4 and 5. 4 talks about personnel and the regular education paraprofessionals. What we're looking for are 2 regular education paraprofessionals to work with students in grades K-3 specifically. When you think of the most traumatic transitions that students have when they come into school, coming into kindergarten and coming into first grade are 2 of those times. Then you look at the middle school transition to high school, and of course high school and beyond. The students coming into kindergarten, however, are at a place where they're at all different levels. We're not sure where they're at either. We do some assessments, but some are coming in knowing their numbers and letters, some are coming in being able to read sentences, others are coming in with absolutely no academic ability to that either. And then, of course, you throw in the social and the behavioral differences. It's a time that has a lot of varied responses or varied needs. We need people to address that. When we look at how we instruct kindergarten, it's a small group, very high teacher-to-student ratios, and we're able to move students forward. We've been utilizing special education paraprofessionals in our kindergarten classrooms. However, not every student with needs is a kindergarten, is a special ed student. Particularly if you have behavioral issues or social emotional issues, you may not be coded for special education. We still need people to work with them above and beyond the classroom teacher. Regular education paraprofessionals in kindergartens and first grade are not atypical. The surrounding schools, not only every school in our SAU other than Nottingham, but also in the surrounding towns on the seacoast, all have dedicated regular kindergarten paraprofessionals for that reason alone. We're also looking for another paraprofessional to work in grades 1, 2, and 3 predominantly, because of some of our significant needs around behaviors and social issues, not just the academic pieces, but we need to have people who can do discrete trials, implement behavioral plans. We've seen some successes with that. But again, these students are not special education, so using special education paraprofessionals takes them away from other students who are coded by special education. So I think they'll be vital to really making sure we get our students off to a good start at that young age.
The lunchroom monitors?
The lunchroom monitors, last year we put those in place. I can't say enough about the positive impact those have had. It's early in the year to really come up with any type of quantifiable information or data around that to some extent, although I can certainly present some of the data team time that we've had with our regular education staff. In a nutshell, however, because of the newly negotiated teacher contract, which was occurring while we were putting the budget together, the role of lunchroom monitors, the importance of it, increased exponentially. We are a state model for response to instruction, or RTI program. Students who need help and assistance, we go in there, we have teachers and interventionists who help them. We've seen our special ed numbers across the board decline, or in other schools they tend to rise as kids get older. We've seen our test scores go up. Our intervention program works. Without the lunchroom monitors, we wouldn't be able to have our staff participate in the data team meetings that occur every Thursday, which would directly impact our RTI program. Our PLC and data team meetings that occur every Thursday during their planning periods are vital to this happening. We've had 3 schools from around New England come visit us already to watch what we do and to learn from us. The lunchroom monitors may seem like a small part, but they allow our teachers to be able to meet on Thursday. They would not be able to do that otherwise. We have to find time during lunches. A 50-minute period for a 25-minute lunch here and there. It wouldn't be apples to apples.
Thank you. Moving on to page 2, you'll see the first one down, health insurance. Our health insurance numbers came in recently. We've got our not to exceed numbers at about a decrease of 1.5%. So that's what we're developing our budget on. You can see that number is up slightly at $23,000, and there's a couple of reasons for that, and I'll ask Marjorie to fill that in.
There's actually 3 reasons for that. If you look further down on that page to the insurance buyout of $10,000, we have less people taking the insurance buyout and taking the insurance. So that's one of your main reasons. Your second reason is because of the staff changes. We've had a few hires and life changes that have happened with the teachers there. As well as with adding 2 new paraprofessionals, so we're adding 2 new staff members. I have tried to budget for health insurance plans for them as well. So typically we would expect to see that to go down with our costs coming in lower than what we were guaranteed last year, and for our decrease in our rate this year.
Will we see that line reconciled at some point where the insurance buyout will just get shifted into, or that will always stay there and just become?
It's just gonna stay there. There's a staffing sheet in here, so you can kind of look at that compared to the, benefits that they receive, and it's not broken out by, if I gave you the full list, that broke it out by who actually has insurance.
Will we see that line
and-
stay though that way as far as?
Well, I update it it depends on, like, I try to update it as far along as we go through the budgets. So if I look at next month's and I see, okay, you know, the health insurance somebody has taken, or somebody decided to go with their husband's plan because they had a better rate, then I'll make those changes, but I don't know if you'll actually see a reconciliation.
So in summary, the insurance costs went down 1.7%, yet in our budget, they're up 5% due to fewer people taking the buyout, so we're paying the full amount of insurance, and people selecting, or employees selecting different options, maybe moving from single to family and that kind of thing, which was a higher cost,
And 2 new positions.
and 2 new positions.
And again, this is only the first part of the health insurance here. Throughout the budget, I'll identify some other areas that you'll actually see the 1.7 decrease. So that those are pretty favorable rates. Let me see, on page 2, I think everything else is fairly straightforward. On page 3, there's quite a few things that I just want to identify. The tuition Dover and other public schools, the tuition, if you read the note, the whole note needs to be changed. The tuition is $12,262 for next year, and then if you do a 4% increase, $12,753. So those numbers need to be adjusted. Right now, with a really quick glance, that line will probably total approximately $1,121,544. So that's going to be an increase in that line once we tighten up the budget. And the next line, tuition Co-Brown, you'll see that we projected a 5% increase. That was a very, very conservative estimate. Most likely it's going to come in less than 4%. I talked to Headmaster Smith. We should get that number somewhere early December. So as soon as we get the number in December, we'll plug the exact number in here. But as a marker, we were conservative at 5%. We're comfortable that it's going to come in under 4%. So obviously, the next time we come back to you, we'll have a tighter number on that.
And traditionally, that number's come in November, correct?
It's come in usually either late November or very early December. And I think we're going to get it right around the 10th, the 9th of December, right in that area. So, like I said, as soon as we get that number, we'll plug the exact number in.
So just to clarify a little bit for those that are new, the Dover number we received recently is for this year, not for next year. And so it went up by about 6.5 roughly %. So that will be what's changed in here, and then they'll estimate the 4% for this budget. So the number we have now is for this year.
I thought our contract had a cap.
That the new contract kicks in, this is the last year of the old contract, the new contract kicks in next year. So we'll estimate it at 4%.
But these numbers are for this,
The number that we received a few weeks ago is for this year, not this budget, for
that's not a
this year.
6.5%
We-
increase.
The number we received for this year is an increase of about 6+%.
Oh, I see, the
in-
contracts for next.
Because with Dover, we get their number after we've already started the school year. So I just want to clarify that it was always something I had to,
For the 15-16 school year.
the
So this would be for the
15-16 school year we
16-17
just
school year.
got. So you'll see that in the notes, and then you'll add 4% to that for next year.
And if you look down, excuse me, 2 more lines, tuition anticipated move-ins. What we've done is try to budget to the exact number. So as we go through this budget, if we get students that are moving out or moving in, we'll adjust this budget as long as we can to get to the actual number. The 4 anticipated move-ins are just in case. Obviously, every child that moves into district that is high school age, you're paying tuition for. So if they're not budgeted for, automatically, we need to find that somewhere else in the budget. So we've got 4 anticipated move-ins there at the $61,668. So that's what that number is. Everything else down through there, I don't see anything that's big questions. On page 4, again, some of the notes need to be tightened up, that we'll go through those. really the big one on this page is, towards the bottom, 100,339, classroom textbooks, language arts, and I'll ask Chris to speak to that.
And on the budget overview, about budget drivers, number 3 talks about improvement of instruction, purchasing a new English language arts program. And that's where the bulk of this number comes from, $100,000. Reading and writing literacy is arguably the one most important thing we do in our school. We, of course, talk about socialization, thinking skills, numeracy, etc., and all the disciplines, but we need to teach students to read and write. This cuts across every discipline, every grade. Our current program is about 8 years old. We have a board policy that is now in place that has a recycle, or a review cycle rather, of 6 years, so we're overdue. The current program now was built prior to Common Core, was developed way before any of the new standards were put in place, and it just doesn't meet our needs. We've been supplementing with materials over the last couple of years as best we can. But considering the age of it, its limitations, it's time to purchase a new reading or English language arts program. Particularly, we're looking at a program that's K-5, K-6. We have new 7th and 8th grade program in place that seems to be working quite nicely. So this is really about those emergent learners in reading and writing. We have a curriculum committee right now that is looking into this. Our goal is to actually be piloting some programs in the spring, looking at samples, meeting with representatives, and seeing what would best fit our needs. In the conversations we've had about new programs coming out with the companies that we're looking at, we estimate that it'll cost around $100,000 when you look at the workbooks, the materials that go with that. Again, that cuts across all 6 grades. The nice part about purchasing a program like this is we can do training all at once. We can move the school ahead in one kind of professional learning community, in one cohort. And again, I can't say enough about how important it is to have a program that works for us, and that is current when you think about career and college readiness.
And we are trying as a board to stay on policy. We initially had a policy that called for a 5-year review. The curriculum director and the administration looked at it and felt that 6 years was acceptable. This is a reading program, as Mr. Sousa said, that's been in place now for 8 years. And you know, we just spent several tens of thousands of dollars trying to catch up from textbooks that were in some cases almost 2 decades old. So we're trying to stay in cycle and do things in a fiscally conservative way as it comes along, and sort of spread that pain instead of what we had to do to catch up with all those other core areas.
Our goal is to plan accordingly. I don't think some of the other programs we'll have this size nut. Then again, the importance of reading and writing across grade levels is higher than some of the other pieces that we're looking at.
Is this a Storytown curriculum that you'll be replacing?
Correct.
Thank you. On page 5, if you look down again, some of the notes need to be adjusted a bit. About 2/3 of the way down, extended school year, high school, $2,200. I'll ask Scott to speak to that.
Previously had that lumped into 3 lines below that, extended school year program elementary. So, for clarity, we're trying to break out our high school and elementary school expenses. And you can see if you add those 2 numbers together, they're relatively close to the original appropriation from the year.
And a few lines below that, I just want to bring your attention, health insurance, 163,000 down, 16,333. That's what I was talking about. You're gonna realize it through the budget here, some of the decreases in the health insurance, and that's just one area that it hits. On page 6, 37,489, about 4 lines down. Scott, teacher of the deaf.
Again, if you look below that with teacher of the deaf elementary, the services leaving the elementary school and following to the high school, and based on the prior year actuals, we had to increase that amount.
If you look under special ed tuition, other public high school, part of the line that's still in development, there's going to be an additional line put in here for approximately $100,000. It's the tiered system for special ed services at Dover that's going to be going in place, so that needs to be added as well. And the special ed tuition preschool, the preschool budget hasn't been established yet. We've got a joint board meeting coming up in another week or two, and we anticipate that the SAU budget as well as the preschool budget will be established at that time, so you'll get an exact number there as well. And throughout this special ed section, special ed is developed on IEP needs, so you're gonna see some increases, you're gonna see some decreases, because our special ed crew literally goes through and matches it to the IEP and makes sure that all of the services are met. On page 7, you'll see the end of the special ed. Really not a lot of changes there to speak to. On page 8, you move into your co-curricular salaries, athletic salaries.
Hey, I just want to finish the rest of that page here real quick. Just 1 minute. Sorry, go ahead.
What's that?
Page 8, yeah.
Page 8, co-curricular and athletic salaries. You'll notice about halfway down, $17,000, increase of $1,000. The majority of that, actually all of that is volleyball, adding volleyball. And then down the bottom of that page, replace equipment, $921. Again, that's a piece of equipment, a padded stanchion for volleyball where I believe it's where the official stands. So it's safer for the kids and it's, not a hazard when it's right next to the net. So that's the main increase on that page. On page 9, I'll ask Chris to speak to the guidance counselor, changing that from a 1.8 counselors to, I believe, 2 counselors.
And this is number 5 in the budget overview as far as our budget drivers go. And we're looking to move our current K-4 guidance counselor, who is in the 80% position, she's there 4 days a week, to 5 days a week. Our guidance counselors are unique in many ways because they're not just guidance counselors where they just see students who come to them with counseling needs. They're teaching guidance counselors. They go into the classrooms, they're teaching curriculum, they're working with teachers to integrate curriculum. I was observing a classroom today, as a matter of fact, and that teacher in an English language arts, a writing lesson, referred back to a guidance lesson taught a couple of weeks ago. And that students, again, relating it to prior knowledge, they are ingrained in part of the curriculum pieces. In order to do that and to continue functioning, I think, with the new ASCA guidelines, having an extra day would go very far. Not to mention, Monday's a pretty big transition day for students, and having that day as a gap day was not ideal for overall student needs. In the overview, just as well as some information about how we want to move in that direction, there's also a chart that talks about how the position has changed over the years. It has been a 20% position from 2007 to 2009. In 2009, it was bumped to 80% position, which is what it is currently. And you can see at least how some of the responsibilities have changed in development. Currently, in addition to work done now, which is having a caseload of approximately 270 students, teaching 45-minute lessons to like 4, co-chairing a child study team, working with a special education provider in counseling and an interventionist, covering counseling, lunches, and group meetings with kids around behaviors and social actions, and then of course our behavior interventions that they do around RTI. They're also taken on 504 coordination, which is similar to what we think of as special education manager position. Under IDEA, any student who has specific needs or disabilities can receive a 504 document or accommodation page, which our teachers will follow. We need our guidance counselors to case manage those as they go. It requires setting up meetings, following the laws, etc., and the referral process as well. And you put in also the behavioral interventions. Again, I mentioned the need for students that we have in the K-4 arena who have behavioral interventions, that we don't have special education people, or because they're not under special education, we have a need to support them. Our guidance counselors have become our homeless liaisons. We have several homeless students in the district. We need to make sure not only filling out paperwork and coordinating with the SAU, but we're going with their providers for education, etc. And then of course, co-treatment with speech and OT, occupational therapy. So you see that the requirements, that their job has changed. And again, for me, I can say wholeheartedly that for what I believe is a relatively short amount of money, with all due respect to being fiscally responsible and conservative, we get a lot more bang for a buck for that one extra day. For that total of $9,931, she's going to really be able to help work with a lot of students.
On page 9, again, you're just finishing off the guidance, not a lot of other changes there. Page 10, you move into the nursing and health supplies and things like that. Really, almost completely status quo down through there. You'll see another realization of your savings in health insurance on that page as well. Page 11, contracted services. The biggest change on that page, if you look almost 2/3 of the way down, you'll see $62,000. Contracted services, behavior technician, and I'll ask Scott to speak to that one.
Actually, it's just a $2,000 increase, which is just we budget 3% for the contract, not knowing what the contract is gonna be. That's the same behavior technician, we had this discussion last year. The BCBT, the technician works under the direction of the BCBA and the special ed team. I think I can probably remind the budget committee that we had a student that if I didn't provide specific related services for, we would have had to send out a district.
More expensive.
Tune, you got new members, so you sort of review it to the tune of about probably between $90,000 and $100,000 for tuition, and then the cost of transportation. Having the BCBT work with that student has been a benefit to the budget, but more importantly, it's been a benefit to the student. And so what's going to happen this next year is when we have the annual review, we'll take a look at the progress and decide whether to fade that service or to reallocate that service. But for now, we'll keep it in the budget because it is potentially saving you a fair amount of money in your out-of-district lines, as you'll see when you tab through and look at your out-of-district placements. The other line that is constantly being evaluated and chased is right above there, the physical therapy line. We're constantly calculating the hours and what we need and adjusting that as we go.
On page 12, again, finishing off contracted services, those are just adjusted on an as-needed basis. And then moving into improvement of instruction. Chris, could you speak to curriculum development, some of the activities that you've done there?
Sure, and again, this is number 2 in the budget overview, improvement of instruction professional development funds. It's broken into 2 categories. The first one here, at 19.5 in this budget, and we're looking at balancing the funds a little bit differently as we move forward, but it was utilized specifically for curriculum work for teachers to do. Currently in the contract we have with our teachers, we have 2 workshop days. We have several half days where students are released early, where we have a couple of hours worth of PD time for teachers. However, we need more time. We need time for teachers to actually develop lessons, work on curriculum, tie it to integrated lessons, technology, the Common Core standards, making sure we're looking at the new assessments with smart balance tests, as well as a few other pieces that we want to work on. This money goes to supporting that work over the summer. We had this amount of money last year, at $19,500, and we had to look for other monies as well to support it. We had more teachers asking to come in and do curriculum work, design lessons, than we had enough money. Quite frankly, when we mentioned that we didn't have enough money to pay for the hours they came in, they were like, well, give us whatever you want, we'll still come in and do the work. So it really became token. We had teachers working 6, 7 hours, getting paid for, say, 3. But it's nice. It's unfair, I think, to them to not pay them for the work they do. And it is good work. We've seen the fruits of that labor are the units I'm seeing. I can highlight in middle school social studies, in language arts, in science. They're all intertwined now. They're doing a lot of multidisciplinary lesson plans. The Google Classroom is in effect across the board for many of those teachers because of the work they did over the summer.
On the next page, on page 13, you'll see staff development stipend, $5,000. That's for the person or people that are managing the professional development and the recertification for the paras and the teachers. In-service training. Also, could you speak to that, Chris, just the vital need of the in-service training as well?
And that's the second part of number 3 as well, improvement of instruction. We just had an in-service, again, on those 2 days, we brought in an international Google trainer who happens to be here and live here in New Hampshire, to work with our teachers, and in one fell swoop, after one day, every single one of our teachers had a webpage created and understood how to use Google Sites. Not up and running yet, will be up soon, but it's all done. We need money to fund those types of programs, particularly if we're looking at improving instruction, aligning with the brand new Smarter Balanced Assessments we did. We're going to be changing our curriculum, doing project-based learning, making sure we're trying to have teachers teach in ways that the students are going to be assessed and need to be ready for. And then, of course, with our new curriculum, if we, as we move towards the new English Language Arts program, bringing in people to work with them. We look at our Math and Focus program. If you recall, 3 years ago, that was instituted. We brought in people such as Mahesh and other experts to come in and work with our staff. This is where we utilize the funds to pay for those workshops for our teachers. Majority of it happens during the school year, but we could also extend it to summertime.
Can I just ask the acronyms? There's a few in here, and just for everyone's edification, we know CCSS and that line is Common Core. The SBAC down under the in-service training.
Yeah, CCSS is the Common Core State Standards, and the SBAC is a Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium, manufacturers of the state tests that we just took. Which are going to be going home actually tomorrow with students, the results of those.
On the next page, 14, I mean, most of it's pretty straightforward. You'll see down the bottom, librarian, quite a substantial change here. That's a staffing change, so that's why the salary was adjusted accordingly.
Jeff, I'm sorry, can we, just for a second, go back to page 13 there, and that in-service training. Last year, we were talking about this, I take it that this is different from the continuing ed stipend or whatever that the teachers had, that, remember we had talked about, I think, or it was mentioned that some teachers took it, some teachers didn't, and there was some monies left over that were allocated for, I think, for teachers just to do the
The staff
continuing
development
ed.
workshops line, that's the contractual line for our teachers to go to workshops or professional trainings or things like that, but that's the contractual line.
Okay, all right, gotcha.
So they're able to have access to the monies to do those classes or trainings, but if they don't use it, then it's left over.
Correct.
We have to provide as part of the collective bargaining agreement.
It's part of the collective bargaining agreement, but if it's not utilized, it stays there.
And I believe last year we utilized more than that.
Okay, I knew there was some line item in there about teacher ed, and I wasn't sure if that fell into the same place as this in-service training, so,
Well, we wound up using, if you look at the actuals from 14-15,
yeah.
22,000.
we used money from the in-service training to offset that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on 14?
Yeah, please, if you have any questions, go ahead and speak up. We have plenty of time.
On page 15, you're going into your librarian. Pretty static all the way down through. Nothing really jumps out.
I wanted to just quickly, for my own clarification, on page 14, I know we had talked about, we had that glitch with the system, the ADS system on the salaries, so I'm looking at the, under instruction and curriculum on page 14, the proposed budget of 71,791, is that still tracking that oddity, if you will, in the system?
It wasn't a glitch, it's one of those things where we
Just the way the system
explained,
takes it, yeah.
if you remember last year and the year before, we were doing the 3% salary pool for all the administrators and we were lumping it into one line. The consensus this year has been to break it out into the individual lines. So as I'm going through the financial statements for the board to review at this point, I'm adjusting this current year salary to be what it should be. So whereas this says 6%, when you get your next set, it will only say 3%, because that adjustment was just made yesterday in our system.
So will the increased number be different? Because the increased number right now is 6%.
Right, it will say 3%.
It'll say 3%, or the value will be 3%?
The 71,791 is gonna stay the same. The reason it's gonna be 3% is you're gonna see an adjustment in the $68,000 number.
Correct.
The one prior to that.
But isn't that based on the approved budget from last year?
Yeah, but where that piece was, instead of being in that line, it was in the salary pool. So if it's out of, what it needs to do is the raise from last year needs to be put into that line, so you get correspondence 3%. But it is a
So
3%.
you'll see
It is a
that throughout
3%.
all the administrators, you'll see that with him, the principal, the assistant principal, all those salary lines that were there, they'll all say 6%, where at our next meeting, they will all say 3%, because the revised budget will then change.
I don't know that-
Nottingham School Board has a budget entry form that we have to fill out for that. So, to do it is very time consuming. I had my staff do 35 entries yesterday just to get the financials right for next week's board meeting. It takes about a day,
You're talking about the current finances now?
the current financial statement.
Really, so all I was really just trying to point out, not, I just was trying to point out that it has been an ongoing conversation about how those numbers, how the system that is used was generating those numbers, and it was kind of confusing. So in an effort to make it less confusing, it sounds like this little transition may be difficult, but it should be properly explained. I just wanted to highlight it. It's something we need to keep an eye on. It will be, all cleaned up. But the other idea too is that we're not just gonna we still are involved with having the monies in a pool and doing the merit versus just throwing, percentages across the board, so.
So can I
So
ask,
even though it will say a 3% change, it doesn't necessarily mean that position's gonna get a 3%. It's gonna be merit-based, but at least this way it will be broken out by position as opposed to just being lumped into one line.
so can I ask the question a different way? The grand total for last year's budget, the one that you're working on now, will that change when you do all these adjustments?
What is going to change is your column that says 1 year prior revised. That's $68,000.
Understood. I'm asking if the grand total will change, because what you're saying is
No.
we're moving money from one place to
No,
another.
your bottom line will stay the
As
same.
long as the bottom line stays the same, because that's what the budget that you're running under is based on.
Right, that doesn't change.
Then it's fine, I think.
The raises haven't been given yet for the current year, so.
Understood. I just wanna make sure that we're
We're not
keeping,
adding, we're not
and it-
adding to
I
it.
just wanna make sure we're keeping integrity to
Right,
the number that was approved from last year.
that doesn't change.
That's all I'm asking.
No, we won't change the budget.
That doesn't change. Hopefully I can add a little bit of clarity to this in about 4 pages, because I'll show you the salary pool. Anything else on page 15? Pretty straightforward. Page 16, you start into your computer-assisted instruction. You've got some slight changes in software and new equipment. Can I ask Chris to speak to those two?
Sure, software, and I think, as I mentioned, as we move towards more online resources and technology-based education, we're gonna see a natural increase in the software we're utilizing. We'll see a natural decrease in some of the paper products and paper books that we're utilizing as well, which we do in this budget. So, as we've been recently very fortunate to have purchased a lot of new Chromebooks and online resources, our students now are actually utilizing those. And so, as you see in here, some of the ones we use, Spelling City, IXL, these are software packages that dovetail with the curriculum. That's going to rise as we're asking teachers to utilize those more in the classroom. Many of our software pieces are free through Google Apps, some of them are not. Our current technology integrator is actually doing a study now to see where we can overlap some of the curriculum pieces, the online curriculum pieces. Can we cut our software budget back, say by using, instead of K3 software package, using a K6 software package? So we are studying this line very closely. An example of where this is being offset in the budget are 5 through 8 social studies magazines, our junior scholastics, Time for Kids things. Those we can utilize online resources now. So that's where we're not purchasing those for the upcoming year. We're using more of the software pieces. We're also seeing under this line some new products that or not new products, but some lines that are somewhere else. For instance, the food service software to gonna come into this line now as opposed to, in tomorrow's cut to the budget. Under new equipment, we're asking, and that's number one in the budget driver overview. As we continue to move our school forward based on our technology plan that was written a few years ago, we continue to explore the idea of moving towards a one-to-one culture. We're asking for 2 new Chromebook carts and a cart for tablets, specifically 25 Android or Google tablets, to do a tablet pilot program. I'm thinking mostly with our younger students, but we want to see where the application translates for tablet use throughout the district. This is, again, built on the technology plan that we have in place. At this point in time, we're also trying to explore and define what a one-to-one environment is. By getting the 2 new Chromebooks, this will put us at about a 2 to 2.5 student to computer ratio. Our current Chromebook carts are utilized nonstop. There's a waiting list oftentimes. We have it all on Google Calendar. You can see them signed up continuously. As I mentioned, we have teachers using Google Classroom and Google Apps for Education. Our students are designing and they're collaborating online. It really is a wonderful way to learn. And this is not the a new and improved way to do things. This is the norm. We have to continue. We are still moving towards that norm in education. As I mentioned last year, and I left it in here as well, that we can't think of technology as something that we're adding to the plate. It is the plate that kids are learning on.
Oh, they're teaching us, right?
Yeah, they are. Look at my kids who are grades 3 and 5, and it's amazing what they picked up.
You should see my dog on my tablet.
So this is, again, I think this is this kind of goes along with the technology we have in place. It's kind of a modest now. We're just adding a couple of carts as we move forward. We want to be very deliberate about any purchases we make that we're using them as opposed to just kind of flooding people with technology. We have a desire. People want technologies and they want the training to go with it. And that's really how you want to build it.
Are there any incentives, for buying them in bulk at a certain time? Do you get any percentage discounts or?
We do, particularly on things like the carts and some of the peripheral pieces. If they're not sold through Google or Google approved folks as much, so that we can get some discounts there. But we get a really good price through HP and some of the vendors because we're a school. There are several vendors that cater to just education. And yeah, absolutely, you get some type of bulk discount, for lack of a better term, particularly on software. Because not only do you have to buy the Chromebook, but then a percentage of that also goes towards the networking software from Google as well.
Then we talked last year about perhaps in the SU level, if it made sense to combine, if there was a commonality between different schools of purchasing maybe in bulk, that might save us. I'm not sure if that's still been discussed or.
Actually, our tech directors in the 3 districts have had those conversations. They usually, when they get to the end of the year, try to get together and look at, what the other school districts are purchasing and see if they can pool things up. Sometimes it's advantageous and sometimes it just doesn't fit, depending on what each district is purchasing. So those discussions have taken place and we intend to do that.
How is the Chromebook hardware holding up?
Very good.
How long have they been in use?
2 years.
2 years? And have you had any fail on you or?
As far as I know, I think we've had one. And it was replaced quickly from the back of the one.
Oh, okay, it was under warranty? Or?
Yeah. And typically there are other local vendors that will replace and work on it. As opposed to just doing that. Once they're on warranty, I think we'll still be able to get them repaired. They're relatively inexpensive, so they're costing.
Yeah, they're cheap. It's almost better to get a new one.
Like that.
Thank you. On page 17, you move down into your Director of Technology. Again, that's one of those that I will add some clarity to in about 2 pages. You'll see a 6%. That's actually a 3%. But again, I'll identify that when we get to the next couple of pages. Slight dip in health insurance there. On page 18, moving into school board services, things are fairly static. You'll see an increase in services attorney. We've got teacher negotiations, we've got tuition contracts, we've got increased right to know request, we've got a lot of things going on, so that's why we are increasing that one. On page 19, the SAU number, that again will be finalized in another couple of weeks at the joint board level, and then the true number will be put in there. That was just carried through as a marker. About halfway down, you'll see salary pool administrators. This is what we were just talking about in all of those areas. You'll see in the present budget, it was in a salary pool, all lumped together, and in your current proposed budget, there's a zero there because it's in those lines that we were just identifying. That's why when we make the adjustment, Mark's question, when we make the adjustment, it's coming out of that salary pool and into the other lines. That's where the adjustment will be made. So your bottom line number remains the same. It's just a matter of getting that money into the appropriate lines.
I based on that explanation, I see no reason to go back and adjust the 2015 to 2016 columns at all.
Well, this is an interesting discussion because I've had it in all of my districts, and some people like it this way, and some people think it makes it very confusing.
But you're making a transition, and you got something that's locked and loaded from last year. So, you know, like the question that I raised was, it really ends up being the bottom line, right? And you're gonna get confusion either way. I would just, my personal opinion, you do what you want. My personal opinion is, based on what you just described, I just do it that way. That's what we did at the town.
And if we put them in the lines and leave them in the lines, then it's gonna be easy next year. So you're right, I mean, one way or another, it's
Write the bullet down.
it's in there, so.
This would continue to look like a 6% increase at each line, right? If
But
he
you'll-
got, if we did it
you'll
the
have-
other way?
But you'd have notes in there that explain it, you know.
The only time it's confusing really is when it goes back and forth, then you get these
Then-
gaps.
then-
It looks like 6%, it's
Right.
really not, so.
Right.
That 11,168 is no longer there. That's what I was trying to explain earlier.
Right.
I have reallocated that money to the appropriate
And it-
salary lines.
Right.
So at the next meeting, you'll see only a 3% increase. This 11,168 is gone, won't even show up, and it will be in the other lines.
It's a real clean and easy.
Clean and clear.
Yeah.
Correct.
Explanation when you go through it that way.
Right.
You know, but again, we did it at the town level. We went from a COLA kind of thing to a merit thing, and we put a big pool in last year that was kind of spread, and now we kind of moved it, so, you know.
Yeah.
We removed it all last year. However we did it, we just kind of bit the bullet, and the budget committee understood, and everybody understood, and,
Right.
you know, just move on. But, you know.
So hopefully that adds a little clarity to what we were talking about. Just below that, you'll see health insurance savings at $33,000. On the next page, page 20, halfway down, you'll see $13,000 increase for buyouts. So that's a net gain for the district. The more buyouts we have, the more health insurance savings we have. So one is kind of offsets the other. On page 20, that's really the big thing, is just the insurance buyout, which we just realized the savings on the previous page. Nothing else big on 20. Page 21. Really, the biggest thing there is increasing a part-time custodian to full-time. That's the only thing there, really, staffing change. The school district bookkeeper salary, you'll see that in there again. That was moved to the SAU, centralized bookkeeping, so that's why it's out of your budget. Page 22. Maintenance, a couple of things. Halfway down, you've got lawn care, up $4,500. The contract, I believe, the $10,500 was for 8 months in the budget because it had started service late, so that's an actual. That's why it went up a little bit. And repairs and maintenance to the building, down the bottom, you'll see is a slight decrease. Again, this is on what's requested and what the needs are for the building. So I think that our custodial staff is doing a really nice job at kind of keeping the costs down and wherever they can. On page 23, again, costs were down a bit on page 22 and on 23. You'll see supplies, general custodial up slightly, $4,700. Just the cost of materials, the cost of supplies that we're seeing. Electricity, propane down the bottom, that's a number that we're still looking into. Linda Osborne is looking into all of our propane and oil, making phone calls, trying to see if we can get bids or lock in or whatever we can do to get that price under control. I know it's pretty favorable prices now. We'll see what that is 18 months from now, but we're trying our best to see if there's a way that we can reduce that number and lock things in a little bit.
You don't use oil, right?
With propane. And then on page 24, excuse me, replacement of furniture down slightly. Again, those are straight off of requests. And then the last part of the page is all transportation and your transportation contracts. That's what was bid out and discussed for contracts. And then on page 25, you'll see special ed transportation down. You want to talk about that a little bit, Scott?
If you, later, when you look through, you can tap through and look at your special education transportation costs. But in the elementary school, they're projected to be down around $86,000 for next year, which is why even when the transportation contracts are regular, your line is down 43,000 overall. A slight increase in the high school, which is, you know, it's a 91% increase, but it's also one student, so don't let that percentage scare you. You can see that in the back of your, in your tab under special ed transportation.
And then your next couple of pages are your food service. Again, there are some increases and decreases on that, all in all, trying to keep it as tight as possible. And then ultimately, your grand total, but remember, there's a lot of lines in development here. This is really just a first rapid run through it. The school board has had one or two cracks at it, and they're certainly not done. There's some lines that they need to have additional discussion, and they will. So the next time we come back, we'll bring you a much tighter budget and more detail on each line, but that's where we are now.
Does anyone want to go through the items that are in the folders in the back? Take a look at those while everyone's here, or?
The warrant articles?
No,
yeah.
these tabs, it has, you know, the salaries and benefits, and I didn't know if anyone wanted to look at those, in case they have questions.
Yeah, obviously your proposed budget, your default budget is coming, that needs to be reviewed. The revenue statement and financial report, again, we'll get that to you. The warrant articles need to be finished. They're in process, we've got them roughed in, but the school board has some decisions to be made there. Staff lists, salaries and benefits gives you a pretty good outline on total compensation and other things for the staff.
Can you explain what's included in benefits beyond healthcare?
It's health, dental, FICA, New Hampshire retirement. The buyout, if they decide to take the buyout as opposed to the health insurance.
Health, dental, FICA,
New Hampshire retirement.
retirement, and potentially buyout. Okay. So if somebody has got a higher number in the benefits column, then it's possible that they're doing like a buyout, right? Okay.
And then you've got your health and dental insurance rates. You'll see that they came in very favorably this year, so we were pretty pleased about that. Doesn't happen a lot, so that was a pleasant surprise. Your special ed out-of-district placements. Special ed transportation. Your enrollment report, we tried to break it down and give you a little history there as well. You can see the last few number of years. And then the SAU budget is going to be finalized in the near future. And then the SAU 44 report card, it has a lot of useful information in there about not only Nottingham, but also Northwood and Stratford as well. So,
Are we still offering some alt ed at the SAU building as well? And is that under the out-of-district costs?
No, it's not a special education program.
So it's not listed under.
And what happens is you have money budgeted in Dover and Co-Brown. And if a student needs to go to the alt-ed program, we use that tuition money to fund that. The good news, Colin, for everybody is you have no students in the alt-ed program. You do have a student Dover alternative, which is a special education place.
That's why I saw that
But
on
as
there.
far as the SAU alt program, you have no students there.
And that one we pay for it. We pay
That
up
one
tuition.
will always be paid for because those kids are budgeted in your tuition line. So what, I'll explain what I do is, they take the total number of kids, figure out the daily cost, and then build the lines per town. And you, in the last 3 years, had 2 alt-ed students out of Nottingham for about a month at the end of school. Just with some changes to the alt program too, so.
Can you explain the key to the medical coverage? I see there's one plan that's discontinued, then there's 3 new ones. How do I read what kind of what's included in those plans?
Where are you on health and dental rates?
Yeah.
Is that what you're on?
Yeah. So you got BC 3T10 Prince 07
Yep.
$3.
Yep.
Blah, blah, blah. What does all that mean?
That's a different kind of plan. If you look at the BC3 T10, okay, that's the identification of the type of plan. And then the 315-1, that's the prescription cost. So when you're looking at insurance plans, the prescription cost will adjust your premium, the deductible will adjust your premium. So as you look down through here, the 10, 20, 45 under there, that's the prescription coverage.
That's how much a prescription ends up being?
Yeah.
It's a 3-tier.
And the carrier discontinued JW07,
But you still,
except for, okay.
except you.
And then the,
Right.
I could, you want me to jump
Yeah.
back in? So, Mr. Carpenter, take a look at the last one, MTB five.
you can call me Mark, it's okay.
Mark, look at, see MTB five?
Yeah,
That's Matthew Thornton Blue, $5 copay. I don't know what the 07 is.
okay,
The R is a $3 generic,
okay.
a $15, brand name, and a $1 mail away.
$1.
So if you mail away with a 90-day prescription, you get a 90-day prescription for $1.
Okay.
If you use the $3 or 15, you get a 30-day supply for $3 or $15.
Okay,
So if you have, it's a cost savings for everybody if people mail away.
And the ones above it are just Blue Cross
Yeah.
plans.
Yeah, so the one above it is Blue Cross 2-tier $20 copay with a 10, 20, 45, which is a $10 generic, a $20 brand, and the 45 is actually a preferred. It's not even a mail away for that one.
and do these plans all have the same deductible level?
No. The BCT 220 is a $20 deductible. The
I'm
MTB
sorry.
5 is a $5
Oh,
deductible.
okay, all right.
Blue Cross 3-tier 10 is a $10 deductible.
Mine would say 12,000 there. Is the, are the rates, those are the full rates?
Correct.
And do the employees, participate? Do they pay part of this rate, or what percentage?
Which class of employees?
Okay.
I know that the
I don't-
paraprofessionals,
That's good enough, I don't
I
want
mean, I
to.
can tell you the paraprofessionals right now, it's 10%.
I don't wanna go all the way into the weeds on it, I just wanted to get a good basic understanding.
We actually, when we negotiated the contract last year, they made some concessions on that, and they were paying more, and we had a lower cost plan added as well.
The teachers pay, the school pays 91% of a single, 81% of a two-person, and 81% of a family.
Okay, thank you.
And that's just for the teachers, and then the parents have that.
Just wanna say thank you, I appreciate how well organized, I mean, there've been years where I've seen the, like, this health insurance plan alone spread out on the wall and like crazy spreadsheets, and it's nice to have everything here.
Thank you.
Very organized, thank you, appreciate it.
Appreciate the write-ups as well on each of the items here. Thank you. Any additional questions?
Not at this time.
Thanks for your time tonight, appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate your time tonight. The next item is the subcommittee for the school default budget. Some years in the past, we've had a committee that has worked with the school board to develop a default budget, which mainly has been the budget minus just any kind of increases that we need by the bargaining agreement contract. So basically a bare bones item that breaks out the warrant articles, and the only increases in that default budget are the contract increases that we have to provide as a town. Now last year we had the school prepare that. It was basically a
Yeah, by law, the school board is required to prepare it. And again, some years ago, 5 years ago or so, when I first joined this committee, really enjoyed it. One of the things that this committee did was to kind of make their own as sort of a teaching tool for new members to go and look at, because it's a formulaic as well by law how it's created, as you just very eloquently explained. So it was a good learning tool, and Michael used to he took us and he spent a couple hours with me. It was very valuable, and I appreciated the time and effort. And then you can kind of get an idea, like, is the school coming in different? It was sort of a, but we take it very seriously, and we follow through and follow it to the procedure as well, so.
I thought it worked pretty well last year. Can you do the same process?
Well, we have to do it anyway,
Yep,
and
I know.
we'll certainly bring it before you, and we're certainly gonna be working on it, and so it's just really up to you guys if you like it as a learning tool, or how you feel about it,
Jeff, if I may,
Yeah, good.
one of the motivations for getting involved in that was that there was some questions about how well the school board at 3 or 4 or 5 years ago was actually following the letter of the law, and we took it upon ourselves to actually understand what the default budget should be by our estimations, and then challenge the school board when we saw something that didn't appear to fit. In the past 2-3 years, school board has been very responsible about putting the time into it to actually come up with the numbers that we would have expected. And so the need for us to bird dog that, if you will, has decreased.
I agree.
And as far as I know, that's still the case. I have some pretty good confidence in our current school board. They're being very responsible with that default budget.
I agree 100%.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's necessary. You can be involved if you wanna learn more about the process, but I think it's definitely, it's been done very well in the past couple of years. I agree.
It's fine, it's a neat experience just to, I think you sort of have a realization of how much the budget is not controlled by you when you see that process moving from the budget to the default, because you realize how much is contracted, and so that piece of it is a great learning tool, but I'm sure you'll share.
We do it publicly, you know, the SAU works it up and they bring it in, and then we go through it line by line, and we've made adjustments to it, and we definitely do it at a public meeting.
I think you guys have been pretty honest with
Yeah.
that's it.
Great.
Susan, if I may, I came in late, I'm sorry if I'm the default budget tab here is blank, so I expect that will be put together here in the next couple iterations, so we'll get that worked out.
Yeah, we're still under development on a lot of things. There are a lot of items that needed to be updated in the budget, and we've only taken really 1.5 meetings, I would say, to work on it, which we talked about early on. And the default, once we get this one tied down, we want to get the contractual pieces in that are rather material, and then we'll be looking at that default budget in the next couple, you know.
Warrant articles also.
Yeah,
I see they
and the
have
warrant
for-
articles, so we're trying to, definitely, it's on the agenda, moving right at us quickly.
Thank you.
In that case, other subcommittee reports?
We're
Any
trying to come to a
updates?
decision about whether or not we're creating that, did we need a?
I don't think I need to. I think,
I think we're all fine.
yeah, we're all fine with that, unless anybody has any objections. Okay, perfect. Other subcommittee reports? Anything new in Marston?
Marston property, we're still moved, since our last meeting, there's nothing new other than, we have, made a decision as to the three, design companies and engineer companies that are gonna come to do a formal presentation. The dates have been set for the 18th and 19th and the 23rd at 5:30 in this room. The respective companies will be coming in, so that's Wednesday, Thursday, and then Monday of November to come in and do their presentation and basically, you know, prove to us why they should be chosen to give us, or to be the one to help us to design the plan for the Marston property. So, there's those presentations, and it's open to the public, so.
Will that be posted on the website so that public that's not here can attend? Awesome.
Want that email,
Sorry?
you want them email?
That'd be great.
I think Janet sent someone out today, I think, regarding
Send
it.
them to Impact, but I can forward it to
Oh.
everyone as well.
Guessing those weren't sealed bids, they, sort of a different process, just.
There were requests for proposal, we put out a request for proposals.
Gotcha. So
They
one
came in, they were, they weren't sealed per se, but they were not open to the public. The committee reviewed them, we all went through a whole list of criteria in order to sort of grade each one of the reports that came in. And from that grading system, decided upon 3 out of the 6 or 7 reports that we got, that we wanted to have further questioning and presentations from, so that they could really show us what their capabilities are, and make it pertinent to what the town needs, so.
But there's nothing stopping anybody from getting copies of it, right?
No, the copies are available at the town hall, I think.
And we had kind of
Clerk's
talked about
office.
at the last meeting, whether or not to now make the selected ones available to the general public, so we can. if-
I don't see why not,
I
I mean,
don't see why you couldn't make them all available.
yeah,
You know, whether they're selected or not,
right.
I agree.
you know.
We see
So
multiple
they're all
options.
they're all on the town website, but just on a separate page that's not accessible to everybody yet. So, thank you.
Thank you. Jean is not here for CIP, so, anything new for interpretation committee? No, you just kinda stepped in today, so.
Since last week, and I was out of the country for a few days anyway, so I wouldn't have been able to go if they did. But I'll see what their upcoming schedule is and make sure that I have input
Thank you.
or feedback from that activity going forward.
Thanks, Sam.
Jeff, do we have an alternate for that committee, from this committee, in the event that that Tony isn't available on a particular meeting night.
We do not, would you like to do it?
Didn't say that.
Okay.
It's a question.
We do not, no, at this point, have an alternate now. Is anybody interested in being an alternate?
It's for the transportation committee.
Correct.
You need a backup plan.
Thank you, Don.
I had always offered to be Jackie's alternate, but she never missed one, so,
So she set the bar high.
yeah.
Awesome. All right, roundtable. Sorry, anything?
Oh, I think it was very interesting going through the budget, kind of seeing everything laid out there is very impressive. Good meeting.
I'm all set.
Thank you, everyone, and appreciate your treatment of the team, and they've worked hard on it. We do still have a fair amount of work left to do on those, on the budget, so look forward to the next iteration.
Great, thank you, I appreciate the work on that, and also to the candidates too for the committee. It's nice to have multiple people this year that want to come out for the town and be part of the process, so thank you all. That's all I have.
I'm good.
Nothing further.
All right, good. Any motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
I heard the second was first.